Hey guys, welcome back to Medical Coding with Blue. Today's episode is all about advice to brand new medical coders for their first week on the job. If you are brand new to my channel, welcome. I am Blue, I'm a medical coder. Well, you got your first job as a medical coder. What advice do I have, right? Okay, so let us begin. The first thing I will say is this: congratulations. You have made it. You finally got your first job, and I know you're excited. There is going to be so much that you are going to learn. You are going to get a very quick lesson in how book coding and real-world coding are two different things. If you've watched any of my other episodes before, you know I say that quite often. You're going to find out new things, right? And you're going to learn things, and you're going to feel like you don't know what you're doing. This is common in the beginning, all right? But I will say this: take lots of notes. I have worked with many new people. I have trained many new people who have literally just graduated school, and then this is their first job. And so I get tasked to train a lot of them, and I have done so for many years. What I will say is this: the ones that pick it up quickly are the ones that take notes. The ones that are not picking up so fast and they get very frustrated and they usually burn out very quickly are the ones that are not taking notes. The thing about taking notes is this: you're going to be getting a lot of information, and it's going to be on everything. It's going to be on the electronic health record. It's going to be on the coding. It's going to be on their processes at that particular facility. It's going to be on a lot of things. So your head is going to be like all this information. But if you take notes, it's going to keep you more organized. It's going to keep you a little bit more grounded. And you're not going to have to sit here and rely on your memory to recall a lot of this stuff, especially in the beginning. And it helps because when your coworkers see you taking notes, they're going to know, okay, this person's taking this very seriously. Because to me, if I see somebody that is asking me questions and not taking notes and keeps running back and forth to ask me questions, I'm going to put a timeout after a while on that. Because it tells me that you're not really looking to learn and that you're more just sort of asking for the answer rather than trying to figure it out on your own. So a lot, and then which leads me to my next point, is to try to figure this stuff out on your own before you go and ask somebody, especially if it's a particular coding thing, right? You can look up your answers either in the book, online with the encoder that you're using, or you can use Google. You know, it is totally there for you to use if you get stuck and have to kind of question like what's going on here. But always do that first. Try to do that first before reaching out to a coworker, because they're going to look at you about how many times that you are asking questions. If you ask questions a lot and you are not showing that you are doing your research beforehand, you're going to find that your coworkers are going to have very little patience with you after a while, because you have to show that you are trying. They are going to be looking at you because of the simple fact that you are new, and they want to know that if you got this position, that you have had to have worked for it. So you want to make sure that you are doing your part in that. Okay, so set yourself up for success. Take notes and look this stuff up on your own before asking your coworkers for help. Okay, that is the first two things. The other thing I will say is this: if you're working in the facility for even a short amount of time, make sure that you are professionally dressed. Even if everybody else in the department is wearing jeans and a t-shirt, it does not mean that you need to wear jeans and a t-shirt too. You need to be as professionally dressed as you possibly can. Blue, I just started. I don't have a lot of money. I get it. I understand. But make sure that you try your best to be as nicely dressed as you possibly can. People will treat you differently if you are professionally dressed in a professional work environment rather than just going in there in jeans and a t-shirt. Okay, guys? And now there's some facilities that are just sending their people home right away, and there's some that are training them on the facility site for a little bit and then sending them home. Again, when you're at the facility, you need to be as professionally dressed as you possibly can, and it doesn't matter what the other people are wearing, okay? You need to be concerned with you, all right? Because if I did that, I wouldn't dress up, because nobody else in my facility dresses up. There's maybe a couple of us that dress up, and that's about it. Everybody else just wears whatever. And so that's the thing. To me, that is unacceptable. When you are in a work environment like this, Because think about it. A lot of us just have our high school diploma or a GED and a certification. And that's all the education that we have. There's a lot of us that are like this. It's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. You could still be a high caliber medical coder and only have a high school diploma, a GED, and a credential. Okay, you don't need to have a college degree, because I've seen people who have college degrees who struggle to do medical coding. So it really all depends on the individual. But that being said, you want to carry yourself as professionally as you possibly can. And making sure that you dress up when you're at the facility is the first step to that. I will also tell you this, and I will say this because I say this to everybody: stay off your cell phone. Now, there's a lot of people who have a hard time with this. They want to be on their cell phones all day. Can't do that, especially if you're brand new. If you're brand new, you need to be present in the facility. You need to be present in what you're doing. You don't need to be looking at your phone. Oh, well, my kids, your kids will be fine, okay? Unless they're critically ill or something, your kids are going to be okay, you know? And so when it's work time, you need to be engaged with work time. You don't need to be on your cell phone. You don't need to be checking Facebook, Instagram, or whatever you're looking at, okay? TikTok, whatever. You need to be making sure that you pay attention. Now, does some of this stuff that I'm saying mean that I'm so difficult? No, it's just the fact that I know what facilities are looking at, and I know what your coworkers are going to be looking at, and I'm trying to set you up for success. So that's the reason that I give you this advice. Just take it as, take it as what it is. It is advice. And I want you guys to be successful. I've seen a lot of really good potential be lost because people didn't take this advice. And it's very simple, very straightforward advice. Is just to really try to take notes and ask questions at the appropriate times. The other thing that I will say is also this: when you are in a work environment and you're concentrating, you're doing all these things, learn about your clinic. If you are being assigned to the pediatric clinic or you're being assigned to the pulmonary clinic, then you don't need to wait for somebody to tell you, oh, these are all the things that we do here. You need to start asking the questions, and you need to start looking at the websites that are specific to that particular specialty. If it's family practice, look up the family practice websites that you can online, right? There's whole associations for these things, okay? Look up the pulmonary ones. Look up the ones for GI and gastro and all this other, any particular specialty that you are in. Take the initiative to look up all the things that's about that particular specialty, so that no one has to tell you, because no one should have to prompt you to do all of these things. This is something that you have to start learning to do on your own, because everybody's going to be watching this, and they're going to be looking at these things, and they're going to be seeing, okay, this is the person that we hired. And for all the things that you learn, yes, there's going to be things that people are not going to show you, perhaps because they don't know. There's a lot of things to medical coding. This is a huge field, and there's so much to learn. Think about it. We have to know what doctors know while never having gone to medical school. I say that a lot because it's true. We have to know about the body, the disease process, and how it all makes sense all together. So because of this is why I say do your research. For me, I work in orthopedics and podiatry. I go to orthoinfo.org, and that has all of the information that I have that I can find about the disease process and about injuries. It's all broken down into layman's terms on this one website. It is extremely helpful for me, and I will go there when I need to find something out about a particular condition or whatever. And I'm still doing that, and I'm 10 plus years into this field. So you are always going to be learning. Accept it. The other thing that I will say is this: don't get impatient with yourself, especially because you're brand new. You're learning, and when you learn things, it's going to take time, and you're not going to get everything right away. The worst thing that you can do is start to get down on yourself because of that. And I've seen people who literally beat themselves up, and I'm like, you didn't know, you're brand new. Give yourself a break, But if you're trying, just give yourself credit for trying, and know that you're just going to learn things. There's going to be a learning curve, especially in the beginning. And when you get your first audit, when you start getting audited, then you're going to know what it's like, and you're going to know what that feeling is when they either catch you on something, or that you were able to argue successfully back for that error, and perhaps it was an error made on the auditor's part and not yours. And so those are all the things that you're going to be experiencing pretty soon. But those things are going to come with time, and it's just going to happen, you know, like I said, over time. And you will start to enjoy once you get out of that beginning time, that learning phase. I say like the first 3 months are the hardest, because that's when it's really going to put a test to you and all the things that you've learned, and you're going to feel some days like you didn't learn anything. Like, what did you learn in school, or what did you learn on your own? It's going to feel like that. Like, oh, did I learn? What did I do here? Why am I doing this? You know, it's going to feel that way. But if you stick with it, which is where a lot of people get caught up in, like, they don't stick with it because they get discouraged, and they feel like they should know everything right away, and they beat themselves up. And it's just like, and I tell people all the time, don't do that to yourself, because that's like the worst thing that you could possibly do. We're being asked for a tall order here. Again, knowing what doctors know while never having gone to medical school. And we've got to know this stuff in order for it to make sense. Because after a while, it will start to make sense. But as long as you follow those very simple rules of asking questions when appropriate, taking notes whenever you do ask questions, so that you don't have to keep running back and forth to that one person, whoever you're asking for help, and just doing it that way, doing research on the clinic that you are coding for, and asking the provider, if you have access to the provider, ask them questions. Ask them, you know, what does a typical visit look like for you when you have time to meet with them? Okay, sometimes that's not always the case. For some facilities, it is one person that is designated to talk to the providers, and for others, it is on the coder to do it. I prefer it that way. I prefer it to be me. I do not like to let anybody else talk to my providers. I get very territorial, and that is just me on my own part, because one, you never know what somebody else is telling them unless they're telling you at the same time, which is the professional thing to do. Professional courtesy dictates that if somebody else is giving your providers education, that they're also informing you about what they're saying, because it's only fair, especially if you've already gone over a question, and then perhaps they're having somebody else say something else different, and then all of a sudden you see a change in the documentation. There's always that. But I always recommend to try to get as hands-on with your providers if you can, if that is acceptable at your facility. Again, it just depends. Some facilities have an in-house clinical documentation improvement practitioner who does all of that education, which is fine. But again, if that is not the case with your facility and it is your responsibility, then by all means, you need to get on board with that. If talking to people is hard for you, I recommend reading the Arbinger Institute books, because it does really kind of help you to rethink how you are looking at different situations. And because of this, it does help. Okay, I will say that it does help, because when you are dealing with very intelligent people, and you will be dealing with very intelligent people, especially in this field, it is very important that you learn really good communication skills, because in order to be successful in your coding and to be able to get through it very quickly, there needs to be a lot of really good communication between the provider and the coder. And it does help, because when there's a disconnect between the provider and the coder, you know, that's when everything can just break loose, right? You know, so you want to make sure that if you have the opportunity to do that in the future, maybe not right now because you're brand new, but if you do have the opportunity to do that, that you are preparing yourself to be able to do those things. Never, ever apologize. I will say this too. A lot of people, especially in the beginning, when they're asking questions because they're new, they start off with, I'm sorry to bother you. I just want to, no. There's nothing more aggravating, I think, than somebody who starts off with an apology. What are you apologizing for? Do you feel like you're maybe disturbing that person? Probably. But at the same time, you're there for business. You're not there just because you're trying to lollygag with them. You're there because you are trying to get clarification or you need help because you've already gone through your steps personally of looking up the answer on your own and you can't get to the answer on your own. So you're having to go to the next step, which is to reach out to your manager, your supervisor, or a lead coder. That way. But don't apologize, and even when you go start talking to the providers too, do not apologize, because the providers are going to know right away if you are a strong person, or they're going to know right away if you are just maybe very meek and not as confident as you should be. They're going to run right over you, and you don't want that, especially because you need to be together in a partnership. You don't need to be where, the doctor feels like, oh, well, they're going to do whatever I tell them to do. No, we're going to do what the coding rules dictate, not what you say, okay? If your documentation does not support, then we need to work together because this is not acceptable. If they're not documenting appropriately, then that's when you have to work with them. But that will come with time. Again, you want to make sure that you are leaving yourself open to those really good communication times when it will come time for that. But just make sure that you start off with, if you're going to ask a question, ask the question and be as direct about it as you possibly can. Don't give all this other fluffy stuff like the apologies, because the apologies is not going to do any good. Apologies is only just going to either aggravate the provider or let the provider know that whatever they tell you, you're going to do. Okay? And that's not the case. It has to be supported. Everything in the documentation has to support the codes that are being selected. And it can't be just because the provider said, okay, well, they want it this way and that's the way I have to do it. No, you have to do it based on what they have there. And so, that's the way that is done. So you have to make sure that you get that confidence. But you will get that confidence after a while. You just have to be patient with yourself. But again, my biggest bit of advice is do not apologize for asking a question. Okay? If you get into that habit, if you're in that habit now of I'm sorry, you need to work on that. Okay? That is my biggest bit of advice. And trust me, that will help you tenfold. Okay? So I'm just going to leave it right there. But yes, that is mostly my advice for the first week. Or really when you're starting in the beginning, first 3 months, this can apply to any time. And also know that your coworkers are there. Yes, some may be supportive and some may not be so supportive. And some may be like, well, nobody trained me, so I'm not going to train you. Nobody helped me, so I won't help you. Some will have that attitude, okay? But just try to be as professional as you possibly can. Don't share so much of yourself, your own personal life at work, because a lot of times you never know who's listening to that. And not to make you guys paranoid or anything, I'm just saying that you never know who's listening to what you're saying. And you never know if by sharing something, it's somebody it's going to use that information, for you or against you. You know what I mean? You never know. So that is something that I will say to you all, is to make sure that you are being very professional, stay professional in this work environment, because, this is where you're going to be working. And it's best to concentrate on what you have in front of you, which is learning. And especially in the beginning when you're brand new, it's going to be most important and critical for you to be putting all of your energy into learning this stuff rather than the gossip that's going on. And if people are gossiping, get away from them. Okay, don't get caught up in all the gossip. Whatever you do not get caught up in the gossip, because that can rage like a wildfire. And you don't want to get involved in that, okay? Because people who listen to that are just as guilty, okay? So I'm just saying. But that's my video for today. That's my advice. I hope this is helpful for you. Congratulations if you are in this class of brand new people in this field. I wish you all the best on your journey. And if you're interested in continuing to watch me on my journey, I hope that you will subscribe, like, and share this video. And I will see y'all on the next episode.